Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. And 8 Claw, 7 November, say again. 7 November, go. I copied a while ago, 1 Charlie transmission that my thing used, and 8 5, this is 7 November, Charlie. Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, reference to your last, you're Brandon, what you get into Fox Drive, the 1200 between teams and local. Also request 3 units take inbound methods to see if we can try to get Whiskey 9 and 8 for pause with the pleasure on it.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by.
Got that?
Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf, my unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha Alpha in there.
One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Hey, I never took a dip. I forgot to take a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. This is Whiskey 9, go. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo.
Hey, thanks for making it to the live stream. This is, well, it's with the Civ Div, but he had an emergency, and I'll explain that here in a minute because it's well, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's a bit of a shitty situation. So before we jump into it, I do want to introduce David Piatek, VA Housing Education. He is a veteran. He is a National Guard member. He is an all-around good guy. And so we bring him on because he has expertise in the VA home loan world, and we like to share any updates there. I myself, Jason, Veterans Info Tap, and then Clay over at the CivDiv, who's not here. We've also created the joint channel Veterans Daily. So we're streaming on all of these this live. So we appreciate it. Now, before we jump into this, I'm going to throw out where's Clay? Where in the world is Clay? So everything was fine minutes ago. And as he's preparing to jump onto this, one of his children, or a few of his children, decided that they should try to flush a nasty diaper down the toilet. Well, you can imagine how that worked out. Meanwhile, there's water everywhere, so he is wading through his house, ran downstairs to get this thing started for us because we used his channel to get it started. And as he sat down in his chair, there was some water leaking down through the ceiling. It's only funny because it's not at my house. But
mine.
All that to say is that I did have a pipe burst at my house 2 days ago. No, yesterday. So that was fun. Turn off the water, running around. I only fell down twice as I was running around chaotic, trying to figure out where all the shut-off stuff was. So anyway, welcome to wintertime, and we are glad you made it. David, there was a lot of explaining, and I'm glad that everybody's here, so thank you for watching. If you're watching on Clay's channel, thank you for chiming in and showing up. And if you're not subscribed to any of our channels, please do that. So there's a lot of moving pieces, David, and, you know, Clay and I do a pretty good job on, you know, pretty much everything except for your world, to be honest with you. So we do a lot, and we're pushing out a lot of information. I do want to kick it to you to start this thing off, and then I'll dial it back into some other things that are going on, and we'll tie some things together. So with that, introduce yourself to the folks that may not know you, and give us some insights on what you foresee happening here now and into the future.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again. So again, David Piatek, VA Housing Education Loan Officer, able to help you use that VA loan And on my channel, I do everything related to veteran benefits around the home loan. So two things I want to kick it off with. One of them I know you talked about on your channel, which is the HR 5529, Fair Housing for Disabled Veterans. That's a pretty big win. I mean, they did some ship shaping around with different, benefits that were out there, and finally came up with this one. And another big one that has, the potential to make affordability in reach for a lot of folks, which is a proposal to actually allow folks to withdraw 401k funds without a penalty for closing costs and down payment. Because for a lot of veterans, that's kind of been the holdup that we've seen is like, yes, they qualify, but they don't have enough saved necessarily to be able to pay those additional closing costs of, let's say, 3 to 4% of a purchase price.
Great point. And here's the thing. Look, and I get it. Many of you watching, you may already own a home. You may have already been down this road. Remember that this is about the collective. This is about us taking care of each other. And, sometimes it's important to even if you've already purchased a home, you're good to go. Sometimes we need to relay information to others, right? And be that person in your sphere of influence, the knowledge giver, right? Share this information with others. I love the point that you brought up that oftentimes for a first-time home buyer that's using the VA home loan, the thought is, and what's out there is zero money. Just go get into a house, man. You can have $1 in your bank account. Let's go. Not necessarily true. Possible, not always able to happen though. Can you give the folks a couple different ways on, let's just set the stage with, yes, you can purchase a home 100% financed. What does that really mean? And where does money, where would I have to come up with money if it's 100% financed? Just give a quick overview on what that looks like and how you could not have to come up with money.
Yeah, that's scenarios. A good point because a lot of folks, when they do reach out, they're like, hey, if I have a disability 100% rating or even any rating, like, well, I thought it was no money down. I don't have to bring any money to closing, right? So yes, the VA guarantees the VA home loan itself, but you still have other third-party fees you have to pay for, like title fees. Some lenders charge fees. You have to set up taxes and insurance. You sometimes have to pay transfer taxes. So, typically we say save about 3% of the purchase price for closing costs. Now, you made a good point, Jason. What are ways that you can go around that? So one of those ways is that you can ask the seller for a seller credit. Now, typically that's during the winter market, the slower time. So like right now, when people are on the sidelines, a lot of people are on the sidelines. So if you're thinking like, well, is homeownership right for me? That's a question you need to ask yourself, number one, because it's not for everyone. It might not be the right time for you. But if it is, don't delay that, because once we get into the summer market, it gets competitive and then you can't get seller closing cost credits. And this is why this 401k piece, I think, is such an important part. And on top of that, Jason, you mentioned something about first-time home buyers. I think this is going to affect more people that are second-time home buyers. And let me explain. Most people that have these really low interest rates are like, what am I going to do? How am I going to move when I already have this really low rate, right? Why would you do that? So this actually may open up an opportunity for somebody to say, well, look, I got a 2.25% interest rate on my property. If I rent it out, I could make an additional $1,000 a month. Well, if I can leverage a 401k to, let's say, because I don't have enough entitlement left over to buy the house with 100% financing, a second VA loan, let me borrow against that because it's a primary residence. So now you've leveraged your VA loan for an investment at a low rate, and you're making positive cash flow and not, making taxes on the other.
Yeah. And you're not losing that rate, right? So you still have that rate on that property as an investment property. So you're not technically losing that. And to be able to have a piece of investment property with a rate low like that is just unbelievable. So let's shift gears a little bit just to kind of meet everybody's flavor of what they're looking for here. I'm going to tell you guys this before I jump into that. Let me do a couple things here real quick. One, thank you for the super chat. I can't see everything because Clay is the one we use. Clay is kind of the one who usually sets it up for everything. So I'm only seeing some comments here. but I did want to throw on a thank you to the, I'm not sure even how to say it, the Wraith 0406. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Sorry, look, if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know, I mean, I can only pronounce about 70% of words. So, and I just do the best I can with that. Also, Sharon Posset, thank you for the support that you did with the membership. I do appreciate that. All right, so here's one of my biggest concerns that we have, and it's not necessarily the rating schedule changes that we have that are coming into place here. We do have these rating schedule changes that are happening. These are the 4 remaining rating schedule updates by the VA, and that's going to wrap them all up. Now the VA will have had all of those, you know, and it's an 80-20 rule. 80% bad, in my opinion, as far as rating capabilities are concerned for veterans. At the end of the day, I am veteran focused. I am veteran. I'm all about the veteran. So whether the medical community or anybody else thinks that a rating should be lower, I mean, even if it's for the right reasons, we'll just say that's bad for veterans because it's taking money out of your household. And that's what I care about. So to answer a question before it comes up, you're grandfathered in, for lack of a better way of putting it. The VA cannot simply reduce you due to a rating schedule change. Okay, so for those of you that are already rated, you're good to go. However, here's the problem. Many veterans are either A, not rated, that's 70%, not even rated, and many veterans that are rated are actually underrated, meaning that they're not properly rated. So any new filings for any new claims could be adversely impacted by these rating schedule changes. Now, one of my bigger concerns is the GAO, the Government Accountability's Office, and their consistent push on the VA to update its rating schedules even further. Okay, so some people are going to hear that the GAO is, you know, pushing the VA to update its schedules. Well, the VA is updating the last 4 of the 15 or whatever there was. So they're already done. Those are going to be done by September. So why is the GAO talking so much about updating the schedules if they're already done? It's a very important question. Why? Because it's deeper than what the VA's already done. The VA is only looking typically right now at medical advancements, and they're making changes because of medical advancements. But the GAO wants the VA to look at earning capacity based on these conditions. Now, here's the thing. On face value, you may think, well, I mean, we should be paid more. Okay, cool. Remember what it's for. What is VA disability compensation for? It's to bridge the gap of earning capacity. Now, you're going to hear and they're going to reference 1945 of the last time that they did a full-blown analysis on earning capabilities. Now, 1945, again, face value, well, I mean, it should be much higher than 1945, obviously. Well, that's where COLAs come in and all that stuff. And so really that's already been accounted for. So what are they really saying? What they're really saying is, in today's world, there are more job opportunities with lower thresholds that you could do in more of a disabled, quote unquote, state. There's medications and things that alleviate conditions, the severity of conditions, so you can actually work. Organizations are required to accommodate you with ADA type stuff. So it's a whole different earnings world today than it was in 1945, right? There was no sit at your desk at the computer all day long. There was no jobs like that. There was no work from home situations. There's a lot of that type of stuff that worries me, in the sense of they're going to say, well, that condition, you could still go work 17 different jobs, go to VR&E, Veterans Readiness and Employment, get retrained and do a new job and go do that job instead. So we're going to lower all of these conditions down on percentage-wise, shrinking your disability compensation from a percentage standpoint. Now, again, those of you that are already rated, good to go, right? Anybody who wants to file a new claim, and new people that are going to be filing for the first time, I'm telling you now, it's going to get more difficult as the years go by, than easier to obtain higher ratings. It's going to become more difficult. Now, again, the 80-20 rule applies with most things in life. I think 80%, it's going to be more difficult. 20%, there's going to be some avenues that are going to be easier. Now, David, what I want people to understand is here, when it comes to VA disability compensation, tax-free, doesn't show up on your taxes. How does a lender look at that? And for mortgages or anything that you're applying for from an income perspective, how do you prove this income that doesn't exist from a tax perspective? How is that calculated? And then also, how important is it with, say, an IRRRL to have any sort of income like that available? So those are my two questions to you. Take the ball, my friend.
Yes. So when it comes to your VA disability income, lenders actually gross that up by 25%. So if you make $1,000, lender will technically count $1,250 for debt to income ratios, but they do take that away for what's called residual income. And I'll throw something in really quick, because we've been getting a crazy amount of folks asking if they're too old to use the VA home loan. And Jason,
Wow.
I had somebody reach out. They're like, "Hey, I'm 82. This lady's using the VA loan for the first time. She's probably watching." And she's like, "The bank told me I can't get a 30-year mortgage because I'm 82 years old." And I said, "What?" I'm like,
What?
"This is crazy. You can be
Right.
99 years old. You can be 105 if you want. You get a 30-year mortgage. Is it advisable? I don't know. But I'm not here to tell you what to do and not to do with your benefits. But we have a lot of folks that come to us that never use their benefits. They're 100% VA disabled. And they're like, hey, it's time to buy a house, right? I'm more power to you. But yes, you can get a 30-year mortgage even if you're 105 years old. Just so everyone knows out there. They can't just limit you. I don't know where that comes from. But having that disability, right? So the way you prove it is going to be with typically just providing your certificate of eligibility or your service award statement. And for the folks that are watching, for the folks that are renting, they passed that. What's the disabled vet? What's that bill where they don't count the disability income? Anymore.
Right. Against you. I don't remember which one it is now. I'll try to pull it up.
So there was a bill that was just signed into law because they tried to make disability not count as income, quote unquote, like from an IRS perspective. Well, that didn't really go anywhere, which would have been great because then you would qualify for significantly more programs, along with your military retirement wouldn't count. That would have been awesome. But that kind of got put to the side. They included it in this like master bill that they wanted to do. And then that all got kicked out of there. So they kind of just like put it down into this one single bill, which only affected, I believe, housing. And it's only really for renters.
It's the Disabled Veterans Housing Support Act was signed into law in January.
Right. So, they talked about this like a year ago, like it was implemented that somehow sneakily it just kind of went away. We did a video on it. So we captured like that it was legit. And then all of a sudden, like it disappeared. So for folks that are renting, this is a pretty awesome deal. Now, this also applies to student veterans. A lot of student veterans will ask me like, hey, I know you mentioned before that if VA disability doesn't count as income, I can get on some type of housing assistance. That is true now with this money, but just note that it is for state, for the government programs, because state programs, Jason, they probably just don't want to fork out the additional money. It's just like to your point earlier with the VA disability. And that's why I'm always saying like, it's always better just to file your intent and then take the year, put the documentation together, and at least file, because if you get a 0 or 10% rating, at least it's service connected. I didn't realize, up until I met you guys, like all the benefits that you have just having a service connection. And for some people, like they just don't realize like, it was 20 years ago that you may have served, but where you are at today are because of some of those things that you did in the military. Right. And I can't stress that enough, because we'll meet somebody that I have 3 Purple Hearts. I got shot 3 times in Vietnam. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah, totally. And, you bring up another good point, right? And this goes back to the age thing. right? That if the big gap in time, look, there's no limit. There's no limit on time frames. It doesn't matter how old you are. And even on the aspect of TDIU, total disability, individual unemployability, there's no age limit. You could be 90 years old and file for, there's nobody that's saying that, well, you can't work anyway, so you don't get TDIU. No. If you were planning on working, but you cannot work due to a service-connected disability, well, then that's the issue, right? So make sure that you're utilizing your benefits to the fullest. And here's the thing, and this is how I always look at it. It's part of your benefits package, right? You earned it through your service. It's there for you. We know what we have today. We know what's available today for us. Make sure you take advantage of it. I'll tell you, David, when I was an accredited veteran service officer running a team of accredited reps and all that type of stuff, I cannot tell you how much it bothered me. My heart just broke every single time that I either had a surviving spouse come into the office who said, my spouse just, my veteran spouse passed away. And, I don't even know what's even available. Like what can we even do, And really they were trying to figure out maybe burial benefits, but then come to find out that this veteran who passed away probably would have qualified for all kinds of VA disability compensation, which would have made their life easier through the years, undoubtedly. And now it's okay, well, let's talk about the burial stuff. Let's look into this. Well, now let's talk about some dependency indemnity compensation, or often forgotten benefit out there is VA pension for surviving spouse. These are benefits that sadly we earned, but we don't even realize what we have. And then surely we don't share that information with our spouse, right? I mean, if we barely even understand what we can do, and then the spouse is like, they have no clue. So all that to say is that take advantage of the benefits that we have today. And this is what I'm going to throw out to people. If you are not sure if you're properly rated, if you're not sure, if you can't say like, oh yeah, no, I understand exactly what the VA disability compensation program looks like. I understand the rating schedules. I know my conditions. I understand secondaries. I understand where I should be rated on the rating schedule. And I know that I'm perfectly fine. If you can't answer it like that, then you might not be properly rated. And either this is what we say, and this is what Clay and I have really tried to implement here is, look, there's free resources out there. They're not all equal level of quality, sadly, but there are free resources. Go try to find a free resource. And if you can find one that's capable, competent, knowledgeable, great, go for it. If not, then reach out to us. We're happy to do a free review, evidence-based VA claims, and we will help walk you through it. Now, David, what do you see on the horizon with regard to, I'm going to preface it with this. You always say when it comes to VA disability compensation and the bulk of VA benefits over here, that the changes often make things worse. It's, it's the 80-20 rule again, right? It's most of the time it's going to be negative. There'll be a couple good things, then bad, then a couple good things. But on the VA home loan side of the house, what do you see? And I know you don't have a crystal ball. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you might see changing? And I'd also like to hear one really, I have one in my mind and I don't want to say it. Give me one like, wow, really? You could do a VA home loan for that, or you could have a VA home loan on that, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So give me a couple things. What you've kind of forecast as far as any sort of changes is in your guessing, and then that other thing.
So with changes to the VA loan, so for 2026, for somebody that has multiple VA loans, the VA loan limit has gone up. Now, that seems confusing because the VA technically has no limit. But when you have multiple VA loans, there is a cap, and then there's a down payment required after that. So it went up to $832,750 for this year, which is positive. Now, there's actually one negative thing, and I didn't catch this. We did a video a while ago. Remember talking about the Sherry Briley and Eric
Oh yeah.
Edmonton veterans thing? So what I didn't realize was the implications of what the actual VA funding, what happened to the VA funding fee. And this is wild to me, okay? Because I just read this recently. I was going to do a video on it, but I kind of slipped my mind. So they were planning on increasing the VA funding fee for non-service connected veterans. So that's 10% or more. So if you use the VA loan for the first time, it would be 2.45. So it'd be a 30%, 30 basis point increase. And if you use the VA loan for the second time and on, it went up to 430 basis points. So 4.3%. That is crazy.
That is like, huge.
So if you buy $100,000 house, I mean, for every $100,000, you're paying $4,300 in VA funding fee. Average home is like $400,000. So just imagine how much you'd be paying. So I think it's a combination, right, between both of what we do. It's long-term thinking home ownership. What does that look like? That's hard to predict, right? Most people are like, well, the market's going to crash. Reality is that I see maybe a crash in like 20 to 30 years where we have our baby boomer generation is going to not be here anymore. One, we have the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the world happening during that time. So a lot of people have a lot of money, right? So that's why they're keeping prices where they're at. We're going through kind of a shift right now with the president nominating a new Fed secretary of the board of the Jeremy Powell, replacement for him. And
Federal
so
Open Market Committee.
Yeah, the Open Market Committee, right? And then, so they didn't raise rates. They kind of kept them where they're at right now. I think that's just to kind of calm the waters so they don't get too crazy and kind of stabilize interest rates, which right now, it's safe to say rates have been somewhat stable or the same rate for a while now, right? But I think that's like every year, Jason, is that the next couple of months, there's going to be a ramp up, and then people are going to again say, well, housing values went up. It's unaffordable. But that's kind of like the theme that's been going on. And a massive correction, you'd be thinking of like 2008. And that went on for a while, right? That was like 9, 10, 11, 12, up until about 14 that went on. So about 7 years is the normal cycle, 7 to 10 years, right? Right now, I think we've been on a pretty uphill, right? We've been doing great. When is a correction coming? I'm not sure. They're trying to slow it. They're like stagnant right now, which I think is not bad because at least people have the opportunity to buy houses. I mean, look, 400,000 veterans used their VA home loan last year. I mean, it's a phenomenal product.
Right. Yeah, it absolutely is, and for all the different reasons. And especially when you understand, and I'm going to throw this out there to folks, that if you're thinking at all about maybe buying another house, you already own a house, maybe you want to buy something bigger, smaller, depending on your circumstances, or looking to buy something for the first time, and you're just not sure, just reach out to David. He will work up the numbers for you, and so then you can work with actual real numbers instead of just guessing. So just reach out to David, and he and his team are super solid. What I wanted to talk about here for a second, just really quickly, because we had a little bit of back and forth in the chat over here on my side on DIC. This is just one example of why it is so important to be properly rated. Okay, be rated for your conditions. Now, dependency indemnity compensation acts as a life insurance for the veteran, right? Your survivors could qualify to receive it. This is not going to be a DIC video, but I'll just dive into a couple of the specifics real quick. So essentially it pays out like an annuity on a monthly basis, pays out a certain amount. There's different things that can create more of a dollar amount every month. There's a base amount, and then you can have add-ons. So depending on if you have dependents, if the surviving spouse needs aid in attendance, if the surviving spouse was married for a certain number of years. All of these things add on and create a bigger dollar amount. The base is almost, I think, $1,700 almost per month, and then it can go up to over $3,000 a month tax-free, depending on all these different add-ons. Now, for a surviving spouse to qualify, there's more than this. Okay, so there's more than just these two ways, but these are the most common two ways that a surviving spouse, for example, would qualify for dependency indemnity compensation. One is the veteran was rated at 100% for 10 years or more. So rated at 10%, rated at 100% for 10 years or more, veteran passes away, surviving spouse most likely is going to qualify for dependency indemnity compensation just out the gate due to the 10-year fact that the veteran was rated at 100%. Now, what if you're not rated at 100%? Well, now, or you've been rated at 100% but less than 10 years. Now, you, the surviving spouse, would need to show that the veteran passed away from a service-connected condition. Now, here's the kicker, and this is why I hate how things are worded online, for example, even on the VA's website. So you think, okay, well, I have to, it has to be on the death certificate, cause of death is X. Okay, well, no, there's two spots on a death certificate. There's the cause of death, and then there's the contributing cause to death. This is really important. The VA views them the same. So here's an example. Vietnam veteran has hypertension, okay, high blood pressure. Gets service connected for it. It's a presumptive condition, very easy. I just need to prove I was in Vietnam, Agent Orange exposure, and that I have hypertension. Boom, done. Rated for hypertension. Now, Vietnam veteran passes away from a heart attack. Well, cause of death, heart attack. Contributing cause to death is hypertension. Surviving spouse would file that for dependency indemnity compensation. So that would be a way that you would show that the cause of death was by way of the contributing cause of death, a service-connected condition. So very important to understand, because it is a huge benefit. And any of us of any amount of age, and for those of you younger than me, I'm 51. For those of you younger than me, life insurance does not get cheaper. It gets way more expensive very quickly. It's a very, that thing just, it gets quick. Yeah, it's a straight up and down line. So, I mean, it's like, for the same price that it costs a 30-year-old to get a $500,000 policy, for the same price, all of a sudden you're getting 20 grand. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. So this is a huge benefit, and this is why it is so important to be properly rated for all these kind of background things that are going on, right? Another thing would be, and this is what you talked about a little bit, David, of these additional benefits that open up from being service connected. You're looking for a new job, a better situation for you and your family. Well, now you're a quote unquote disabled veteran. There's some preference in that. And then if you hit the 30% mark, now all of a sudden there's even more preference, veteran hiring preferences that come into play as well. And again, this comes down to being properly rated. What I'm going to say here real quick, David, is these changes, again, and I'm going to throw it out there 80-20, right? It's mostly bad with some good. These rating schedule changes that are coming, the VA announced, now, look, I get it. It's been a broken record over the last year and a half. All of us, Clay, myself, others out there on YouTube talking about these rating schedule changes. We all anticipated they were going to happen last year. That can got kicked down the road 1,000 times. Mostly with all the chaos at VA, reducing force and trying to implement things and all of that. So they kicked it down the road. Now the VA officials have stated that it will be done by the end of the fiscal year, which is September. So, I mean, we're talking 8 months away that these rating schedules will go into effect. If you're not at 100% today, back to what you said, David. Look, throw in your intent to file. Think about it, right? Reach out to us. We'll do the free consultation, right? And at least let you know if there's a potential path. These are important times because you can't ever go back and go, man, I wish I would have.
This is not, yeah. It's like
this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can't go backwards. You can only go forward. We know what we have today, and we can absolutely guess that it's just going to get worse. So what would you say, David, is one of the most, I don't know, I kind of want to say underutilized, but that's kind of the wrong message. When it comes to VA home loans, what is probably one of the most amazing things that you could purchase with a VA home loan?
It goes both ways, underutilized and best thing you can do, right? Well, I'll add one thing that you mentioned earlier with what you guys do. From our end, it's the same thing. If you're working with somebody or some of these big companies, I'd challenge you at least schedule a call with us, share what they're offering to you, and kind of see the difference in experience. Because sometimes people are like, well, why don't I go to a big company? Because if you want to work with a call center that doesn't care about you or you buying, then go ahead. That's kind of the path. But for us, we care because I understand it fully what that process looks like, and to go through that. What was the question? Oh, what's the best thing? So I'll tell you, this is one thing that JC people don't realize is that nowhere in the handbook does it say the veteran can't leverage a loan to build an investment portfolio. And I'm gonna explain that because it's one of the least utilized. They're like, I could only buy the house if I live in it for 50 years, and then I can sell it or I can rent it. Like, that's not the case, okay? Technically, per VA guidelines, now this doesn't happen, and this probably be a clear indication of like you're trying to manipulate the system. But technically, living in the house one day qualifies as you meeting occupancy requirements. That's just the facts. And so with that, though, people can purchase multifamily properties. So every area is different, but I'll tell you, like in Chicago, right, there's thousands of multifamily properties where you can buy a house and not pay a mortgage because your tenants are paying for it. Right now, if they pay or not, that's a different story. But by the numbers,
on paper,
by the numbers, it's a phenomenal way to generate revenue. Plus, own an asset, and now you yes, you have a mortgage payment, but other people are paying for it. And we've seen that so many times. Like in the example I said, that people have these really low interest rates. They bought homes 5 years ago, or even before that, they refinanced with an interest rate reduction refinance loan. I never answered that question. It's where you could refinance a VA loan, even with a $2 million balance and a 10% disability rating. That's all you need to refinance the house, right? They have no appraisal. They just need a source of income. They don't verify how much you make. So that's an important part of that. And also just to kind of backtrack on the VA disability compensation for surviving spouses. Remember, a non-remarried surviving spouse that receives indemnity compensation and the veteran is eligible for a property tax break, that passes on to the spouse even if they move to a new home.
Wow.
So those are like all big things to understand, because having a senior freeze, right? Like normally if you're over 65, that they basically, I think what they do is they take out the school taxes. They're like, well, they don't have any kids, right? So they don't need to contribute to the school system. I think that's how it works. So this is an even better benefit because a lot of places you don't pay property taxes at all, right? So that's an additional, $2,000, $3,000, sometimes $20,000 of back in your pocket. So it's almost like you're giving yourself income.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, so you can purchase up to a 4-unit property, for example, right? So here's a question. So your idea would be, if you look, every geographic location is different, right?
Yep.
So you could get into one area where it's like you're not going to collect enough in order to pay it, to live rent free, right? But you could also go find a spot where you could. So it just depends on where you're looking in the US, right? Now, if somebody wanted to do that temporarily, okay, so let me just throw out an example. And there's actually a question. So the question here is, I'll do the question first. Can you get an RV with a VA home loan, or could you purchase a property overseas? So now here's, I'm going to give my scenario, and then I want you just to dive deeper on this. Okay. So I find an area in the US where I could buy a 4-unit property with my VA home loan and cash flow it. Okay. I move into it and I live in one of the 4 units, right? And I rent out the other 3. Let's just say that I'm cash flowing on those 3. I'm feeling pretty good. I stay there for, I don't know, 6 months. 6 months. And now I decide, I don't really want to stay here anymore. So I rent out mine. Now I'm really cash flowing and I go purchase an RV or I go purchase a home overseas. So there's my question for you, and scenario.
Yeah. So flat out to buy a RV or land overseas or house overseas, unless it's in like the territories, then you wouldn't be able to use a V loan directly to purchase them outside of that. Okay. But if you leverage equity in your property, now we've seen this happen, right? Now you can leverage a VA loan, but some people don't, right? They'll leverage a fixed second mortgage, or they'll leverage a home equity line of credit. And then they'll leverage their home as collateral, take out this secured line of credit, and then buy a home overseas. I've seen that plenty of times. Yeah, that's actually a great way to be able to do that. But this is why kind of being able to leverage what you have, right? Like especially if you have a home or multiple properties that are paid off, or you're getting aggressive on paying them off. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah. So there's no real requirement that you have to stay in the home after you've purchased it, moved into it, lived in it as your owner occupied home. Life changes. You can move on. You can still keep your loan. Everything's fine. You don't need to hide from the VA. It's not like anybody's going to come knocking on your door. You don't need to tell your renter to say that you live in the bedroom. You know, you don't need to do any of that.
And that happens.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's people are, I mean, look, we get limited information and then we just work with it. And sometimes it's not always fully correct.
Right.
I wanted to take this opportunity here to just shine a little light again on we know the benefits that we have today. Don't know what the future is going to hold, right? As there's more scrutiny, I believe personally that there's a war against VA disability compensation and VA benefits in general. Now, again, it's an 80-20 thing. I think it's 80% not going to be beneficial for the veteran sphere. With that being said, there's so many different benefits out there that people are just completely not aware of, and they don't know how to utilize them, leverage them, that type of stuff. And one of them is VR&E, Veterans Readiness and Employment. And again, this is not going to be a deep dive into this. This is, I've done videos on this in the past, but I do want to just kind of throw it out there for folks so they understand what's available. As long as you're rated by the VA at 10% or higher, you might be able to get into the VR&E program. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's actually 5 different tracks. There's kind of 5 different benefits within one benefit. And one of them, David, is actually 2 of them are pretty surprising. So I'm just going to rattle these off. And then I kind of want your kind of, I don't know, your thoughts on this. So the VR&E program, as long as you're 10% rated or higher, they offer 5 different tracks. Again, I'm not going to deep dive into this. I'm just giving you an overview. So one, they offer a re-employment track. Okay, so you're just getting integrated into your original kind of job with maybe some modifications and what have you. Second one, rapid access to employment. Okay, this is for veterans who already possess necessary skills and they're just trying to find another job. Self-employment. Okay, this one's, a lot of people don't, I mean, I wouldn't off of its face think that this was even an option, right? So self-employment. So there is a self-employment track within VR&E. So if you want to go be self-employed, they may be able to help you with that. Number 4, employment through long-term services track. Now, this is probably the one that most people think about when they think of VR&E. This is essentially, hey, look, you were a mechanic, and now your service-connected disability is not going to allow you to be a mechanic anymore. Your high blood pressure, whatever, working with your hands above your head, all that stuff all day long, not good anymore. You're going to need to do something different. So they'll train you into a new career field, whether it's through, just traditional type college stuff or other types of technical schools or what have you in order to get that. And then they'll help you get your job placed. So now number 5, this one's interesting to me as well. Independent living, designed for veterans who are unable to work immediately and require assistance, such as specialized services to live as independently as possible. That's in VR&E. It's one of the tracks. So if you are a disabled veteran, something happened, and you're taking some time to transition and kind of get your feet back under you, so to speak, they can help you through the independent living track. So again, there's all of these, and it goes back to my time as a veteran service officer, right? People coming in after the fact. And it's like, man, we could have done all of these different things to really create a much easier situation. So do you have any thoughts, David, on any of, is there anything that went in your mind like, wow, I didn't think that was even a thing?
Yeah, I definitely didn't know they did the self-employment track, because we talk to a lot of people that will ask us like, hey, I'm in VR&E. Can I use that income to qualify for a V loan? Well, short answer is you can't, right?
Yep.
But I think the program in general, I think, is probably underutilized. Because if you think about it from a employment perspective, skill set perspective, like I haven't even used my GI benefits, right? And I finished school, but I didn't have the benefits at the time because I had the Illinois National Guard grant at the time. So I still have my full 36 months plus some additional benefits. And but I talked to so many people where they're like, oh, I thought my benefits expired or I don't have any benefits. And I'm like, well, you still have those 36 months so you can go back. But VR&E doesn't count against it. Is that accurate?
That's true. And here's an interesting thing. And check this out. So this is even bigger for those of you, and I get it, it's a small portion of people, out there that have post 9/11. But because a lot of people are like me, right? I had Montgomery GI Bill, and that came and went before I even had an idea of what to even do with it. So, but thank God I paid into it. That was fun. So if you get accepted into VR&E and you have any amount, 1 day of post 9/11 GI Bill remaining, you need to tell the voc rehab counselor, hey, I'd like to utilize my GI Bill for my monthly stipend. Even if it's 1 day, they will mirror the amount because you're eligible for post 9/11 GI Bill. They will mirror that amount and pay you out. They have a different cap on it. I think the cap's around $3,300. So, I mean, you'd have to go to school in like San Francisco or New York or somewhere super high to be over that and then be capped at the 33. So for most cases, I mean, it is the lucrative way to go. So for those of you out there that might be wondering what we're talking about, if you get accepted into VR&E, what happens is once you're enrolled and they send you wherever you're going, you might just be doing school online, you might be going to a technical, whatever they put you in. While you're in that program, they're going to pay you out a subsistence allowance. Now, the standard subsistence allowance is around $1,000 a month. Maybe if you have a dependent, right? So you and one dependent, it's around $1,000 a month. They'll pay you that while they're sending you to the school, and they'll pay for all the schooling for you as well. So it's a great situation. But if you have post 9/11 GI Bill and you tell them, hey, look, I have post 9/11 GI Bill remaining, any amount, they will mirror that amount of housing allowance and create the subsistence allowance based on that up to about $3,300. Huge difference depending on where you live. And 99% of the time, that is going to be the one that's going to pay out more.
That's awesome. I'll have to
Yeah.
hear that. And I
Yeah.
actually wanted to bring up one. Well, you asked me about upcoming changes and kind of a potential big benefit for National Guard members. I don't know if you saw this, but they put a proposal out there that would
Oh,
reduce how long it
yeah.
takes a National Guard member to use their VLON. And I think this would be
Right.
crazy because that would make active duty be able to qualify for the loan, even though they only served a very short period of time, which, by the way, a lot of veterans I talk to that have VA disabilities don't qualify for the VA loan because because you have a disability and you don't meet the time and service and character of discharge, you can't use your VA loan, right? So it would help out a
Right.
crazy amount of millions of veterans. So essentially what they said is that once you finish active duty or like you're a basic training, and you did 14 drill days, you'd be eligible for the VA loan. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, for
They still
sure.
haven't passed it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, want to throw out, we've got a super chat here from, and look, I'm really horrible at this. This is actually why I have Clay on
Yeah.
more often than not. I can't even read the whole thing, which is weird. From Macon, I'm guessing it's Blankenshire. Thank you so much for the super chat there. I really do appreciate it. And it looks like the question is how can you contact us? Right. Vietnam vet with 90% for PTSD, sleep apnea, and tinnitus. So if you're looking for some help regarding your claim and a free review of your situation, and this is what we do is we'll look at the entire circumstances, not just what you think you need to do, but let's ask you the questions, look at the big picture to see if we're missing anything with regard to your current conditions, potential for direct service connections, potential for increases if you're not properly rated on your current conditions, and then potentially other increases in secondaries and other presumptives and so forth. So the website is EB, that's Echo Bravo, VAclaims.com, or you can email us, and I'll type it in the chat too. Email us at vaclaims@ebvaclaims.com. All right, so I'll put that in the comments as well for you, and I also put in the comments for David's channel, which is VA Housing Education. VA Housing Education. I put that, but again, I only have access in Veterans Info Tap comments.
I think
right now.
Yeah, I see one here for me here. What does the loan servicer use to calculate your affordability on a VA home loan? I think essentially is what the question is. So, when it comes to VA home loan itself, there are a lot of things that are factored in, right? Credit, collateral, capacity, right? What does your credit look like? How much?
Hey, that's 3 C's.
I know the 3 C's of lending.
Nice.
Collateral, that's the house, right? Can we actually loan on the house? Does it meet the VA's minimum property requirements? And capacity, right? Do you have the capacity to make the payment? And the VA itself, Jason, for folks out there, the VA is pretty loose, right? Like it's so loose. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this should be approved because they're only taking home $500 net income at the end of the day. But lender can't just say no, right? If the VA allows for it, they allow for it. But this is why it's so important for you to understand your budget, right? Most of the time when people come to us, they're like, we say this is what you qualify for, and they're like, nah, that's way too high. Like, I want to be at this. I'm like, good. Sometimes people are like, well, I thought it'd be a lot higher, and that's normally because they're self-employed, right? Where they're like, well, I make money, but I expense things. So it looks like I make less, but I want to make more. Sometimes we can't include spouse's income because they may have not received it for long enough. Sometimes somebody has a second job they haven't had for 2 years, so we can't use that income to qualify. So there's different nuances. And with that, I'll tell you that it's never too late to schedule a call. And you get in the description on my channel, all my videos have my direct link to schedule calls with us. And then at least we can go over it. So 6 months out, a year from now, you're under contract today. Congratulations. I would just encourage you to at least reach out, have a conversation with us. We're not badgers, I promise. Just like, if you're looking at your VA disability stuff, sometimes it's nice to get a second look at it and be like, all right, this does make sense. Or, you know what, you're missing an opportunity to be able to either save more or just get better service.
That's right. That's right. Now, I had a question for you, and I don't know the answer. Let's say that I'm done with the rat race, right? I'm done with the rat race. I just got awarded 100% on my VA. Maybe I just got some social. Maybe I'm just collecting Social Security in addition to it, or maybe I'm out on SSDI now, and I'm selling my house, and I want to go buy essentially a farm, right? A small farm, and just kind of, get a little bit of elbow room and some quiet, some solitude, and somewhere that I can shoot some hay bales or something, right? So,
love it.
Is that an option with VA?
Yes. Well, there's two things to that. So one, you can buy you can buy a farm. It's called with the VA home loan. That's for sure you could do it. Now, what you have to be careful of, because sometimes people will be like, I'm buying a house with 260 acres. That can cause a problem because the acreage is worth more than the house.
Mm-hmm.
There's an alternative program you can use, which very, very few people know about it. It's the USDA Direct program. Now, this allows up to $600,000, no money down. It's like a 40-year mortgage. First couple years are interest only. You only make one mortgage payment a year at the end of the year, and you actually have to farm the property. So it's a pretty cool program.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, I just want to buy, 20 acres, just have peace and quiet, then definitely you can use the VA loan for that purpose. So that's a good one, because a lot of people don't realize, like, yeah, you could do that. You could do a construction loan. You could do a rehab loan. I mean, you could want to build a log home. You can do that with the VA loan. So, are no minimums.
Right. The new construction is an interesting one. And here's the other thing is that, sometimes we get into a situation to where we're ready to hang it up and retire, but we're going to move to another state. And maybe it's got better veterans benefits, that type of stuff. And in that, I'll say you lend pretty much anywhere. So reach out to David, and then he'll guide you through it and help you understand what you could qualify for and what the numbers look like, and run all the different scenarios for you. Now, I have a question over here on this side, and it's really about that law that we just talked about. Now I can't remember it again. Here it is. The Disabled Veterans Housing Support Act, which eliminates the VA compensation and pension being utilized as income. So what this really impacts, and really a great direct impact for this would be HUD-VASH. So HUD-VASH, for those that don't know, is essentially Section 8 housing vouchers for veterans. So it's a veterans version of Section 8. So I'm low or no income veteran, right? Low, no income veteran. I could be married, right? Household income, that type of stuff comes into play. How many dependents you have, right? Maybe you got 5 kids, your income can be higher. But where I live, I just can't afford to even rent a place in our current circumstances. So I can reach out to HUD-VASH, work with the caseworker there and give them all my information. And then if I qualify based on my income, remember, you got to have a lower income. If I qualify, then I'll get my housing subsidized with a HUD-VASH voucher. So if my rent would be, we'll just say $3,500 a month on where I'm living, maybe it's going to be reduced to $1,000 a month. So now I pay $1,000, and HUD-VASH voucher will pick up the remaining $2,500. So it's a huge program. But what was happening is people would be priced out of it with their VA disability compensation. So my VA disability compensation takes me over the income threshold, and now I don't qualify. So this removes that obstacle for, quite frankly, some of the most vulnerable of us, right? So with that, Clay,
how's it going?
We talked about your shitty situation.
Yeah, man. Here's the video idea: is I bought a house. Now what? Now you got to take care of it. That's the thing. No, I got to remove the water leak through the light fixture. So I got to turn the breakers off, remove the light fixture, make it all dry in between, the main level and the basement. Because I know if I don't do it, we're gonna have mold, and then that's gonna be my problem. And yeah, so thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
It's a party. Yeah. Do you have any questions on your side before we wrap up? I don't even know. I mean, you weren't here, so maybe people just disappeared.
I wasn't here, but we can at least give a shout out to the new members. I have no idea whose channel these are on, but we definitely appreciate it. And we have, how can I contact you? I'm a Vietnam vet with 90% for PTSD. Yeah, hit up David. What was it? David at vahousingeducation.com.
No, VA Housing Education. But yeah, no, we I think Jason answered those highlighted ones. Yeah.
All right, cool. And then this one here, not sure if you got this one. Also, the water restoration people is calling me. So
sweet.
If we don't take care of each other, so something went wrong.
Yep, that's it. All right. Hey, thank you guys for making it. We appreciate you. Have a great one.
Thank you.